At the wedding, they sat me by the bathroom. I canceled everything. They begged for mercy. Abigail Turner moved quietly through the grand hall, clutching the schedule with a nervous tightness. This was the biggest event of her career, the wedding of Isabel Thornton, daughter of one of the wealthiest and most influential families in town. For months, Abigail had poured her heart and soul into every detail, coordinating vendors, arranging seating, and making sure everything ran smoothly. She wasn't just a planner today. She saw herself as the woman who could finally step out of the shadows and show everyone what she was truly capable of. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and dozens of white roses, each petal painstakingly selected. The guests arrived, elegantly dressed and chatting in hushed, excited tones about the grandeur of the celebration. Abigail's stomach tightened every time a compliment went to Vanessa Collins, the flamboyant and self-assured lead organizer who had always overshadowed her at the company. Vanessa was dazzling as ever, flitting from guest to guest, basking in the spotlight. Abigail felt invisible. Her heart sank further when she was summoned away from her post, toward a corner near the restroom. "You'll be better suited over there," Vanessa said, smoothly, eyeing Abigail as if she were an inconvenient prop. The there was a narrow, dimly lit nook beside the bathroom, a cold and inappropriate space for anyone involved with the event, let alone the person responsible for the day's success. Confusion blurred into embarrassment as guests glanced her way, some whispering, others barely hiding their smirks. Abigail struggled to steady her breath, her cheeks burning. She tried to explain, but Vanessa's eyes bored into hers, shutting her down. The whispers grew louder. The room seemed to tilt as the humiliation crashed like cold waves over her. In that moment, Abigail wasn't the professional she had worked so hard to be. She was a spectacle, sidelined and minimized before an audience of influential onlookers. The hurt glistened in Abigail's eyes, but she refused to cry. Instead, a quiet resolve settled inside her chest, hardened by the sting of injustice. This wasn't just about a mistaken seating arrangement. It was a calculated move to belittle her, to remind everyone where she truly belonged, or didn't. As Vanessa swept past, laughing with an unmistakable note of triumph, Abigail felt the room close in. This was no longer just a wedding. It was a silent battlefield where her dignity had just been challenged with cruel precision. And as the music swelled and the guests raised their glasses, Abigail knew that what happened next would either bury her beneath this moment or ignite something she never thought she had. Laughter and whispers around Abigail felt like shards of glass pressing into her skin. Sitting beside the cold, sterile wall near the bathroom, she felt the weight of every judgmental gaze. The glaring contrast between her humble attire and the shimmering gowns of the guests only deepened her sense of isolation. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold back the sting of tears that threatened to spill over. Every moment stretched painfully as Vanessa's orchestrated smirk echoed in her mind, a reminder of how carefully this humiliation had been plied. Abigail's thoughts raced. How could her months of dedication boil down to this, to being quietly exiled, made the subject of cruel amusement? Vanessa stood in the center of attention, her voice dripping with false warmth as she took credit for every successful detail, details Abigail had meticulously managed. The irony of it all stabbed painfully. Vanessa's arrogance was not just a facade, but a carefully built armor aimed at crushing anyone who dared to shine alongside her. Guests wandered past, some throwing sidelong glances, others murmuring thinly veiled comments. Abigail caught a phrase or two. Did she really mess up? Why would they sit her there? Maybe she isn't as capable as we thought. Each snide remark felt like a hammer blow. She wasn't just fighting for her reputation now. She was struggling to keep her dignity intact amid a swarm of condescending eyes. Behind the laughter and ridicule, a cold realization hit her. This wasn't personal. It was about power and control. Vanessa needed a scapegoat to maintain her image and status, and Abigail, with all her quiet sincerity and determination, unintentionally threatened that. Watching Vanessa receive praise and accolades while she sat sidelined, felt like a betrayal from the very world she had hoped to belong to. But maybe there was something more deeply painful than the obvious humiliation. Abigail felt the sharp sting of invisibility, the cruel message whispered by those around her, that she simply didn't belong in the circle of influence, that she was, despite her talents and ambitions, forever less than. And yet, beneath her swelling hurt and embarrassment, flickers of defiance kindled. The pain fed a growing fire inside her, a yearning not just to be seen, but to be recognized for who she truly was. This wasn't the end of her story. It was a raw, unwelcome prologue. Her heart ached, but she knew she couldn't let bitterness or silence consume her. There was a choice before her: to crumble under the weight of cruelty, or to rise, however painful, from the ashes of this public scorn. That choice would define her. If you've ever felt powerless in the face of unjust treatment, remember, there's strength in embracing your worth and standing firm when others try to push you down. Abigail's fight was just beginning, and so could yours. After the initial shock of her exile next to the bathroom, Abigail tried desperately to reclaim some semblance of control. She silently rehearsed what she might say if anyone gave her the chance. Something professional, concise, undeniable. But no one did. Instead, Vanessa continued to glide effortlessly between guests, showered with compliments that felt like salt rubbed into Abigail's wounds. As the evening wore on, Abigail attempted to return to her duties quietly, hoping to fix mistakes or at least show her competence through action. She organized a last-minute change requested by a guest, coordinated with the catering staff on a minor delay, and even smoothed over a small seating confusion. But these small victories passed unnoticed amid the opulence and whispered judgments. Every effort seemed futile in the face of Vanessa's overwhelming presence and the guests' growing whispers. A particularly painful moment came when a longtime client of the company approached, smiling warmly at Vanessa, completely bypassing Abigail's attempts to engage. "Vanessa, your work is impeccable, as always," the client praised. Abigail caught herself forcing a polite smile, choking back bitterness. She had worked just as hard, if not harder, yet she was invisible. The sting of being overlooked by people she respected nearly broke her resolve. Still, Abigail refused to let the evening end as a complete loss. She clung to small flickers of hope. Maybe if she proved herself through competence, the tides would turn. Maybe if she kept calm, professional, and focused, she could shift perceptions one moment at a time. But those hopeful bursts were quickly overshadowed by growing obstacles. Her phone buzzed with a message from a colleague, Vanessa's closest ally, reminding her sharply to stay out of the way. It was a thinly veiled warning, wrapped in unkindness. Abigail realized she was not only fighting a public battle, but a hidden personal war within the company. The currents of office politics swirled around her, threatening to drag her under. With every setback, a creeping sense of helplessness wrapped around her. The event she had envisioned as her breakthrough moment was dissolving into a tapestry of humiliation and exclusion, her confidence wobbling, but not yet snapped. Abigail's mind wandered to her dreams, owning her own business someday, crafting events where respect and professionalism were central. But right now, those aspirations felt distant, almost impossible. Amid the swirling doubts, a voice inside urged her not to give up. She pictured the faces of those who believed in her quietly, the few friends who'd encouraged her, the clients who had seen her dedication. Their faith was a fragile lifeline. The night marched on with no clear end in sight. Abigail moved through it like a ghost, struggling to find light in the deepening shadows. The battle between humiliation and hope raged silently within her. What happens when you're trapped in a moment that seems impossible to escape? Sometimes it's the quiet strength to endure, the flicker of hope against the dark, that holds the key. Abigail's journey was far from over, and every step toward healing would demand courage. As the evening shifted deeper into night, the atmosphere around Abigail thickened with tension. What had started as subtle sidelining escalated into an outright campaign to erase her presence. Vanessa's voice grew louder, cutting through the room like a blade, commanding attention, her laughter ringing with an edge of triumph. She effortlessly monopolized the conversations, dismissing Abigail's attempts at participation with a flick of her hair or a condescending glance. The cruel isolation extended beyond mere social distancing. At one point, a guest approached Abigail with a polite smile, knocking lightly on a nearby bathroom door to alert the staff before retreating with a quick excuse, leaving Abigail awkwardly alone in the cramped, off-limits corner. The chill of the sterile tile floor beneath her made the humiliation feel physical, as though her very body was being cast aside as refuse. This exclusion wasn't a mistake or accident. It was a calculated humiliation. Vanessa, fueled by envy and a desperate need to maintain control, had turned what should have been Abigail's moment of triumph into a public spectacle of degradation. Abigail's mind reeled with the injustice. How could people laugh while crushing someone's dignity? How could they revel in fairness shattered, respect denied? Her heart pounded fiercely, threatening to betray her disguise of composed professionalism. She felt completely alone, surrounded by silent judgments and the sting of being unmistakably unwanted. Yet beneath the flood of embarrassment, anger boiled hot and fierce, stoking a fire Abigail hadn't known lay within her. This was more than an insult, it was a summoning. Finally, near the peak of the celebration, her patience snapped. Unable to contain the turmoil that threatened to consume her, Abigail rose slowly from her cramped seat. The room hushed as she made her way to the grand center of the ballroom, her voice steady but resolute as she spoke clearly. "This celebration cannot continue. I'm canceling all the planned events from this point forward." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Vanessa's face paled, momentarily losing the mask of arrogance. Organizers and family members exchanged shocked glances. Whispers soared into panicked murmurs. Abigail's words cut through the music and chatter like a thunderclap. She revealed that many of the event's arrangements were incomplete, contracts unsigned, vendors unsettled. The glamorous facade crumbled, exposing a web of careless planning and manipulations. Most of all, Vanessa's behind-the-scenes games. What previously had appeared like glamorous precision was unspooling into a chaotic mess. The sudden rupture left no room for argument. Abigail, once the object of mockery and scorn, now stood as the only voice of truth and integrity. The guests' laughter had stopped, replaced by shocked silence and glowing respect. Vanessa and the wedding party scrambled desperately, trying to salvage their image, but Abigail's quiet dignity cast a new light, one that revealed the rotten core beneath the glittering surface. The power in Abigail's refusal to tolerate injustice was palpable. As the tension reached its peak, Abigail stood tall, her eyes challenging the room. This would be her turning point. The humiliation had pushed her to the edge, but it had also ignited a fierce strength no amount of cruelty could quench. And in that charged silence, the first seeds of change were sown. If you ever find yourself pushed to your limits, remember that the darkest moments can become the spark of your greatest strength. Abigail's battle was only beginning, but her courage had already started to rewrite the narrative. Maya sat alone in her cramped apartment, the dim light casting long shadows across the peeling wallpaper. The echoes of that humiliating meeting at work still churned relentlessly in her mind. The whispered comments, the dismissive glances. She replayed every word, every sideways smirk, feeling the sting deepen with each recollection. How had it come to this? Once confident and admired, now reduced to an object of ridicule. The thought twisted inside her, tightening like a noose, threatening to choke out any remaining spark of hope. But amid the crushing weight of despair, a faint ember flickered. That evening, scrolling through her social feed, all carefully curated success stories and smiling faces, Maya's eyes landed on a message from an old mentor, Natalie. The timing was uncanny. Natalie was someone who had seen Maya at her best and her worst, always believing in her potential, in a way Maya struggled to believe herself. Tentatively, Maya opened the message. "Remember when we said setbacks are just setups for comebacks? Still true. If you want to talk, I'm here." The simple words carried a warmth Maya hadn't felt in days. For a moment, She let herself breathe, albeit shallowly, imagining a way out of the dark spiral. It wasn't a utopian promise. It was a silent hand reaching through the bleakness, offering something she desperately needed: understanding. Still, the obstacles seemed colossal. The office rumor mill churned relentlessly, her professional reputation bruised beyond repair in the eyes of some. She tried to reach out to a colleague, hoping for an ally, but was met with empty politeness or avoidance. Self-doubt gnawed at her resolve like a hidden predator. Was there truly a future beyond this humiliation? Or was she destined to be defined by it? That night, as the city hummed outside her window, Maya found herself jotting notes, thoughts, memories of past successes, fragments of encouragement she'd once received but buried beneath the weight of shame. The pen trembled in her hand, but she continued, almost compulsively. Writing became a lifeline, a mirror reflecting a side of her that still existed, despite everything trying to convince her otherwise. The next day at work, a quiet moment in the break room introduced a new variable. Amira, a junior intern with gentle eyes and an unexpected sincerity. "I saw how you handled that meeting," Amira murmured, voice low and steady. "It wasn't fair, and I wanted you to know someone's paying attention." The gesture was small but significant, a seed of trust planted in parched soil. Maya nodded, her throat tight, but a faint smile creeping in. It was the first time since the ordeal that she felt a tentative connection, a reminder that she wasn't alone. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something different. These subtle shifts, the mentor's quiet support, the intern's kindness, the pages filled with her own voice, started to form a fragile scaffold beneath the crumbling ruins of her confidence. The path ahead was uncertain, shadowed by doubt, but something inside Maya stirred, a whisper of resilience, hinting at the possibility that the story was far from over. If you've ever faced moments so dark they seemed endless, you know how precious even the smallest flicker of hope can be. Sometimes it starts in the quietest moments, with unexpected allies and the courage to keep writing your own story. The following morning, Maya arrived at the office with a cautious sense of purpose. The day before had opened a small window, one she was determined to push through, even if only a crack. Her encounters with Natalie's thoughtful messages and Amira's quiet solidarity had illuminated a path she hadn't dared see before. But she knew the true test would come soon enough. Midway through the morning, as she sat at her desk sorting through emails, a new message popped up in her inbox. The subject caught her breath: urgent, meeting with the board. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened it. The board meeting was set for the afternoon, but this time, it wasn't to reprimand or belittle her. Instead, it was a chance for Maya to present a project she had been spearheading, one dismissed earlier as unfeasible, but that now held undeniable promise. As the hours ticked by, tension coiled tightly in her stomach. Would the board remember yesterday's gossip, or would they see the merit she had struggled to prove? The conference room was filled with familiar faces, many with doubtful expressions, but Maya felt a quiet determination surge within her, fed by the unexpected support around her. When her turn came, Maya stepped forward, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. She outlined the proposal with clarity and passion, detailing research, data, and foreseeable benefits. Eyes that had once watched her with skepticism now flickered with genuine interest. As she spoke, a hush settled over the room, a rare kind of respect, replacing the usual whispering. At the meeting's close, the board's chairperson, a woman known for her tough demeanor, leaned forward. "Maya, this is impressive. We overlooked the potential here, and your perseverance is admirable. Let's move forward with a pilot program." The words hung in the air like a triumph, and Maya wasn't alone in feeling the shift. Even the colleagues who had been distant now exchanged glances of surprise and reconsideration. Outside the room, Amira waited with a wide smile. "I told you," she whispered. "People will see the truth if they just listen." Maya's lips curled into a genuine smile, relief and newfound confidence merging. But the surprise was yet to come. Later that afternoon, as Maya returned from the meeting, her manager approached her. Not with criticism or condescension, but with an apology. "I misjudged you, Maya. You've shown strength and skill beyond what I recognized. You deserve a chance to rebuild your reputation here. Let me help you." The sincerity in his voice was unexpected, breaking down a wall Maya hadn't anticipated. In that moment, the tide had undeniably turned. The antagonists, the cynical whispers, the dismissive looks, were now voices faltering in disbelief. Maya had reclaimed her narrative. Not through confrontation, but through unwavering dedication and the unexpected kindness of those who truly mattered. This day marked a beginning, a vivid reminder that even in our darkest hours, a single act of courage or a word of support can illuminate paths toward justice and respect. If you've ever felt overshadowed by doubt or unfair judgment, remember, resilience combined with a little help from others can lead to astonishing transformations. Sometimes, the biggest victories start simply by refusing to give up when it seems easier to do so. From that pivotal day onward, Maya's world began to shift with a force she hadn't dared imagine. The recognition from the board and her manager's unexpected support created ripples that transformed the atmosphere around her. Where suspicion and mockery once lingered, a cautious respect started to take root. But the real challenge wasn't just winning over the boardroom, it was standing firm in the face of those who had reveled in her downfall. Maya knew that reclaiming her dignity meant confronting those lingering doubts, the whispers she could still hear behind closed doors. The same colleagues who had snickered and excluded her now watched with wary eyes, unsure if the storm had truly passed. Determined, Maya took on leadership of the pilot project herself. She worked tirelessly, not just to prove the potential of her idea, but to demonstrate the strength that had emerged from her trials. Every meeting she led, every problem solved, reinforced a new narrative, not of the woman who had faltered, but of the woman who had risen. Resilience became her trademark, patience her shield. When snide remarks surfaced, she met them with calm professionalism, her presence alone turning the tide in her favor. Even those who had been harshest found their voices faltering when faced with her unwavering commitment and grace. One afternoon, during a team gathering, a colleague who had previously dismissed her approached apprehensively. "Maya, I underestimated you," he admitted quietly, eyes sincere. "You've changed how I see things here. I'm sorry for doubting you." His words weren't just an apology. They were a bridge mending broken relationships. With each small victory, Maya felt the weight of humiliation lift. But more importantly, she embraced a deeper understanding that true strength isn't born from never falling, but from choosing to rise each time. She chose kindness over bitterness, and her resilience became an example that inspired even the hesitant. The pilot project succeeded beyond expectations, earning accolades from upper management and setting a new standard for innovation within the company. Recognition arrived not as empty praises, but as genuine respect, rooted in hard-earned achievements. Maya's journey wasn't without scars. No story of perseverance ever is. But those marks became reminders of a path conquered, lessons learned, and self-worth rediscovered. The woman once silenced by humiliation was now a leader, her voice vital and clear. In reclaiming her strength, Maya also sparked change within the company culture, encouraging openness and support where once skepticism had thrived. Her courage opened doors for others to overcome their own struggles, fostering an environment where empathy replaced judgment. This was more than vindication, it was transformation, both personal and collective. Maya understood that the greatest justice isn't rooted in retribution, but in growth, healing, and the power to lift others along the way. Her story stands as a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome, not by denying pain or erasing mistakes, but by embracing resilience, humility, and the unwavering belief in second chances. It's a story that echoes far beyond office walls, reminding us all that courage in the face of adversity can rewrite even the harshest chapters of our lives. The following morning, Maya arrived at the office with a cautious sense of purpose. The day before had opened a small window, one she was determined to push through, even if only a crack. Her encounters with Natalie's thoughtful messages and Amira's quiet solidarity had illuminated a path she hadn't dared see before. But she knew the true test would come soon enough. Midway through the morning, as she sat at her desk sorting through emails, a new message popped up in her inbox. The subject caught her breath. Urgent, meeting with the board. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened it. The board meeting was set for the afternoon, but this time, it wasn't to reprimand or belittle her. Instead, it was a chance for Maya to present a project she had been spearheading, one dismissed earlier as unfeasible, but that now held undeniable promise. As the hours ticked by, tension coiled tightly in her stomach. Would the board remember yesterday's gossip, or would they see the merit she had struggled to prove? The conference room was filled with familiar faces, many with doubtful expressions, but Maya felt a quiet determination surge within her, fed by the unexpected support around her. When her turn came, Maya stepped forward, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. She outlined the proposal with clarity and passion, detailing research, data, and foreseeable benefits. Eyes that had once watched her with skepticism now flickered with genuine interest. As she spoke, a hush settled over the room, a rare kind of respect, replacing the usual whispering. At the meeting's close, the board's chairperson, a woman known for her tough demeanor, leaned forward. Maya, this is impressive. We overlooked the potential here, and your perseverance is admirable. Let's move forward with a pilot program. The words hung in the air like a triumph. And Maya wasn't alone in feeling the shift. Even the colleagues who had been distant now exchanged glances of surprise and reconsideration. Outside the room, Amira waited with a wide smile. I told you, she whispered. People will see the truth if they just listen. Maya's lips curled into a genuine smile, relief and newfound confidence merging. But the surprise was yet to come. Later that afternoon, as Maya returned from the meeting, her manager approached her. Not with criticism or condescension, but with an apology. I misjudged you, Maya. You've shown strength and skill beyond what I recognized. You deserve a chance to rebuild your reputation here. Let me help you. The sincerity in his voice was unexpected, breaking down a wall Maya hadn't anticipated. In that moment, the tide had undeniably turned. The antagonists, the cynical whispers, the dismissive looks, were now voices faltering in disbelief. Maya had reclaimed her narrative, not through confrontation, but through unwavering dedication and the unexpected kindness of those who truly mattered. This day marked a beginning, a vivid reminder that even in our darkest hours, a single act of courage or a word of support can illuminate paths toward justice and respect. If you've ever felt overshadowed by doubt or unfair judgment, remember, resilience combined with a little help from others can lead to astonishing transformations. Sometimes, the biggest victories start simply by refusing to give up when it seems easier to do so.